Welcome, everybody. Can you stand to your feet tonight? We got a whole lot to celebrate tonight. Is anybody feeling alive tonight? Make a little noise if you can. Let's sing it together. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem,
Someone said, yeah, I can hear you. You got a big mouth. So anyway, here we go. Well, guys, how many are glad that you came to our 40th Night to Honor Israel? We're so thankful that you are here. It's going to be a good night, and this is our 40th, as well as we're celebrating 70 years of the modern establishment of Israel. Happy birthday, Israel, right? Also, I want to thank Yael and Ofek for joining us as one of our singers from Jewish Colorado. We can thank them. Thank you guys so much. But before we continue with tonight's program, I just want to ask you if you could please mark your calendars for next October of 2019 on our 41st Night to Honor Israel. So we just want to invite you to that. Please mark it on your calendar. So everyone, my name is Jason King, and I have the great honor to welcome you, and I also have the great honor of being the senior pastor here at Faith Bible Chapel. And what a great night this is going to be tonight. We're so excited about this. And to you, our Jewish friends, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for entrusting us. Really, thank you. Thank you for entrusting us with your evening. Your presence truly means the world to us as a symbol of our friendship as we stand together tonight in solidarity as one. It's a privilege for us, really as communities, to continue to grow in our friendships and in our lives together. So thank you again for being here. So tonight is not just at 70 years, but tonight is about telling the story of Israel and her people. Not just over 70 years, but actually from Abraham to where we are today. And I'm fully aware that that is impossible to honor God properly in an hour-and-a-half program, but we're going to try to honor him. We're going to try to honor you because you deserve it and God deserves it tonight, and so we want to do that. And so from Abraham's call to the present, there has been a thread. There's been a thread that has tied everything together, and that thread is a God who is true to his word, and he is true to the Jewish people because he said he would be, right? That's what tonight is about. And we cannot forget the significance of God's story through the people of Israel to the world. And so tonight we want to do our best to tell that story. We're going to tell that story with different video pieces and different parts, but it's the story of the people. We're talking about the story of the land and the story of the moment that God established Israel 70 years ago. It's a story that's worth telling. It's a story that you could hear it over and over and over again. And every time you hear it, you think, is that really true? Did that really happen? And when you look into history, you recognize only God could have made that happen. And so that's what we want to do tonight, is celebrate those moments. So my encouragement to you is sit back, relax, and enjoy tonight. May we all leave here. My heart is that we would all leave here with a fresh awe of who God is, with a deeper appreciation for the Jewish people and our friendship as Christians and Jews together, that we would draw closer together as community, standing together. Really, we as Christians and Jews, we have a front row seat of watching God work in Israel. We get to see it all the time. So before we continue tonight, I do want to take just a moment. I want to acknowledge some leaders in the audience tonight that, if you don't mind, please hold your applause until the end of these acknowledgments. And so I would like to acknowledge State Representative Perry Buck for being here, State Representative Kevin Priola, State Representative Tracy Kraft-Tharp, State Representative Kim Ransom, Congressman Ken Buck, Congressman Mike Kaufman, Senator Tim Neville, State Senator Angela Williams, State Senator Chris Holbert, Commissioner Diane Holbert, and Doug Tisdale with the RTD. Can we thank our public servants for being here tonight? Thank you so much. We are incredibly honored you would join us tonight. And also I want to extend a warm welcome to our friends in the Jewish and Israeli community. I want to just welcome Lynn Geller, President of Congregation of Hebrew Educational Alliance. Thank you for being here tonight. Rabbi Jay Streer, the CEO of Jewish Colorado. Rabbi Yakov Chitovsky with the BMJ congregation. Rabbi Joseph Friedman, Larry Meisel, Chairman of Simon Wiesenthal Center and founder of Meisel Museum. Barbara Burry, the the president of Jewish National Fund, Boaz Meir, director of Jewish National Fund, Action Israel, the Allied Jewish Federation, AIPAC, Americans Against Terrorism, Jewish Colorado Organization, our friends from the Denver Academy of Torah, the CEL, the Counterterrorism Education Learning Lab, Jerusalem Institute for Justice, Intermountain Jewish News, the Anti-Defamation League, Mountain States, Bridges for Peace, and also I just want to give a special welcome to Pastor George Morrison, who's joining us from Georgia tonight. Can we welcome all of those? I also would like to ask, if you are a pastor or a rabbi and you're joining us tonight, would you please stand so we can acknowledge you and your leadership in our community? Would you please stand for us this evening? And also this evening, with the highest respect of great honor, I'd like to invite all of the Holocaust survivors and second-generation survivors to stand so we can honor you this evening. So if you could you please stand? Thank you so much for being here. It's truly a privilege to have you. But also, out of remembrance, I'd like to lead us in a moment of silence for those who we've lost in the Holocaust. So if you could, let's just give a moment of silence. Thank you.
The people. Now Adonai said to Abram, "Get yourself out of your country, away from your kinsmen, and away from your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you are to be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, but I will curse anyone who curses you, and by you all the families of the earth will be blessed." Genesis 12, 1 through 3. The Jewish people, God's faithfulness. The miracle of the Jewish people throughout history is jaw-dropping in both scope and experience. This people began when a man stepped out from the plains of Sumer, a place of idolatry and vanity, a place without vision. That man stepped out. He risked leaving behind the norms of his day, the status and mundane of Sumer, for the calling of the Eternal One. A call to be a blessing, to repair brokenness, and to be a light in a dark world. That man was Abram, and that calling was to an unknown place. So Abram went as the Lord had spoken to him. Genesis 12:4. He took the physical step that faith requires. Abram submitted to God's plan of redemption and obeyed him to the point of nearly killing his only son. This offering of human sacrifice was a practice Abram thought had been left behind in summer. God spared Isaac and in his stead provided a ram to take his place as the sacrifice. God's faithfulness continued as he allowed Abraham's progeny to become a great nation. Despite 400 years of slavery in Egypt, God's plan was not thwarted as he provided a way of escape through a deliverer, Moses. Soon after their deliverance, God gave the Torah at Mount Sinai, a type of wedding vows for his bride in the desert. God's faithfulness was evident as cloud and fire guided them 4 decades in the wilderness until the children of Israel were prepared to take the land that God had promised to their forefather Abraham. Exodus 19 verses 5 and 6 explains the divine purpose. Now then, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my own possession among all the people, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. For over 1,000 years, God's faithfulness sustained the Jewish people in their land. The Golden Age under Kings David and Solomon saw the completion of the temple in Jerusalem and an era of peace. But despite God's blessing, Israel fell into a repetitive cycle: disobedience, God's discipline, attacks from enemies, repentance, and God's salvation for Israel, over and over and over. The continuing decision to disobey God's laws brought about harassment by pagan neighbors, conquest from foreign empires, revolts against occupying powers, and ultimately, the Jewish people were expelled from the land of Israel to the four corners of the world in 70 AD. The words of the prophets that foretold Israel's demise also spoke of God's faithfulness. Thus says the Lord, if I have not established my covenant with day and night in this fixed order of heaven and earth, then I will reject the offspring of Jacob and David my servant, for I will restore their fortunes and will have mercy on them. Jeremiah 33, verses 25 and 26. For nearly 2,000 years, the Jewish people were scattered throughout the world, longing to be in their homeland and its capital, Jerusalem. In the late 1800s, one man observed anti-Semitism growing across Europe and became ignited with vision to see the Jewish people return to their historical homeland, Israel. It is true that we aspire to our ancient land, but what we want in that land is a new blossoming of the Jewish spirit. Theodore Herzl.
You know, for us as a community, we've been doing this for 40 years. And this isn't just something that we do as Christians, it's something that we do as a Christian and Jewish community, because we couldn't do this unless you showed up. That's kind of a big deal for us. And that the fact that you would do that, it means so much. And so I just want to share a little bit tonight before we continue with our program about what this event, the impact this event has had over 40 years. 40 years of partnership, 40 years of celebrating God's faithfulness, and 40 years of growing in our relationship from Christians to Jews and Jews to Christians. So as you're here tonight, the question always is, what is the why? Why have we as a church, Christians, went through all of this effort to create an opportunity for us as Christians to stand in solidarity with the Jewish people? Well, for me, it really matters. As a pastor, it matters. And I know maybe our Jewish community, you've heard many of these things, but this is important for me to express my love and my thanks to you. We owe a great debt to you as the Jews. We have expressed this many times, but it's worth expressing over and over and over again. It truly is. For one, the Word of God that we strive as Christians to honor and to follow was preserved by the Jews. Also, those who are Christians acknowledge that our Savior, Jesus Christ, is a Jew. We want to honor him as well by having this night to honor you, our Jewish friends. And so with this night for 40 years of solidarity, we want to bring honor to the God who is our sustainer, a God who is a promise-keeping God. We hold these nights, just like tonight over the last 40 years, to give God the glory for preserving a group of people that, according to all accounts, should not exist on the face of the earth today. Actually, the Jew should have ceased to exist. There should not be any evidence of a nation called Israel, but God has made a promise. And against all odds, a Jewish nation stands today, and we stand with her as Christians, that story is worth telling over and over and over again. It's worth telling. It's worth shouting. It's worth having a night like this. It's worth speaking it in our daily lives. And I've said this often, but it's very important for us to acknowledge, especially in an evening like tonight, that Israel exists not because of May 14th, 1948, though that's a remarkable date. It's very important. But she exists because of Genesis chapter 12 and our God who made a covenant with Abraham, and then he was faithful to follow that out. And even though the world forgot about Israel in that promise, God never did. He never did. And when the world tried to erase the Jewish people from history, God was set on making the Jewish people the center of history. It is appropriate to acknowledge this small little idea that the word history truly is his story. It's God's story that he's been telling with the Jewish people in Israel. And for 40 years, we at Faith Bible Chapel and the Jewish community here in Denver are committed to tell his story and your story. And then when the enemy of God's people set out to destroy them and destroy Israel, God remained their strength. Though we've held these nights because of the resilience of the Jewish people, and you are resilient and you are an inspiration to all who know you, we really hold these nights because of the resilience of the love of God that never turned on his promise towards Israel or his people. Never changed his mind about his people. He remained faithful even when humanity was faithless. We are here tonight not to worship a nation, because a nation in itself is just a nation. And we've done this for 40 years to honor the one true God who has sustained a people group and made a covenant with those called the Jews and has established them to be a nation called Israel. How many are thankful for that? For the past 40 years, and with God's help, for the next 40 years, we're going to continue to declare the nation of Israel is unlike any other nation in the world, because it sits under the covenant of God of the universe, who has promised, as long as there's a moon in the sky, there's a sun that shines, there are stars that shine, as long as there is dirt on the ground, he will always be with Israel. That's the message we're going to continue to proclaim from nights like tonight. People have tried over and over, as all of us know, throughout history, and they found that they can't make the Jews go away. They may go away for a while, but you will never keep them away from the land that belongs to them, which is the land of Israel. God's promise for Israel and the Jewish people is an irrevocable, unconditional covenant. And we are here to honor that God and to honor you, our Jewish friends. And this night has been one for us as Faith Bible Chapel and our community. It's one of our highlights of the year that you would be here. Listen, we get to have a big party, and who doesn't want to have a big party and hang out and eat food, right? It's very important. But we want to do it with our Jewish friends. We want to do it with you. And we want to keep doing that. But over the last 40 years, this night has allowed us together as a community an opportunity to help others who couldn't help themselves. This has allowed us to serve others who couldn't serve themselves. And for we, as a Night to Honor Israel group of our communities together, I think it's important that we just acknowledge, one, we've been able, because of this night, we've been able to build playgrounds in REL many, many, many years ago when many playgrounds didn't exist. Because of you, because of what you've given throughout these nights and your support throughout these nights to help establish a children's learning center. We've been able to see this city called REL explode and become a leader in development and progress. And we somehow had a small part in that. And now I'm incredibly grateful for what God has allowed us to do from this night. You, as the community of Christians and Jews, have helped families who were at their wits' end with treatment for physically and mentally challenged children. We've helped them find hope with water therapy through what's called Eden Kids. We've helped countless kids find a glimmer of hope and get their mobility back and increase their mobility and giving hope in a difficult situations as parents. And I've talked to them as tears streaming down their face. They said, we had no hope, but because I was able to bring my child here, it's given them hope. And it's a glimmer of hope in a heart that feels really isolated from the world. You have done that. This night has allowed thousands of soldiers to be encouraged in the Israeli military bases through a group that would go and sing songs and dance, and many times the tears streaming down their faces, they just say, thank you for coming. We together have brought joy and hope to young people's lives and encouraged them to know that they are not alone, that there is a group of people in Denver, Colorado, and Christians around the world that stand with them and give them hope. So thank you for doing that. Also, over the last 40 years, we as a community have grown. I think that's what is the most remarkable thing. We've grown together. We've trusted each other more. We've loved more. We've grew together. We've opened our homes, and we've hung out in each other's homes, and we've got to know each other. We've seen, looked at each other eyeball to eyeball, and we loved each other. And by doing that, my friends, we have set an example for other Christians and Jewish communities to come together and stand with each other, and Christians to stand with Israel, and for Israel to stand with Christians. God's allowed us to do that. For 40 years, God has used this church and used this moment of Jews and Christians coming together to stand and celebrate and show the world that actually we can hang out and we can make a difference together. It's important. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for forgiving us when we have made mistakes along the way. Thank you for being with us for 40 years. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for being with us for another 40 years, because there is another generation that must hear this message. There's another generation. There is. Unless we pass the baton on, who will? And that's what we're responsible for in our own communities, the Jewish community and Christian community, is to pass this on to a younger generation, to give them the hope and for them to see the significance and the value that we would stand with one another and stand with the state of Israel. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for being with us for another 40 years to celebrate God who is faithful to a people, the Jews, and God who is faithful to a land, Israel.
The land, the Jewish homeland, God's faithfulness. Upon arrival in what was then called Canaan, God spoke again to Abram. To your descendants I will give this land. Genesis 12:7. Divinely appointed real estate given to Abram's descendants to be a physical marker visible throughout history, pointing to God's faithfulness, his covenant. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans, to give you this land to possess it. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I have given this land, from the river of Egypt as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. Genesis 15 verses 5, 7, and 15. The land was itself an element of God's covenant with Abraham, and therefore filled with purpose. The book of Deuteronomy describes God's amazing promise to the children of Israel. Go in and possess the land, which the Lord swore to your fathers to give to them and to their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey, a land of hills and valleys, drinks water from the rain of heaven, a land for which the Lord your God cares. The eyes of the Lord your God are always on it. If you listen obediently to my commandments, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and all your soul, then he will give the rain for your land in its season. Deuteronomy 11, verses 8 through 12. God created the land of Israel to be the epicenter for those blessings to flow out to the rest of the world. However, if the children of Israel chose disobedience and thus were sent from the land, it would become barren, unproductive for any other inhabitants. Beware that your hearts are not deceived, and that you do not turn away and serve other gods and worship them, or the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that there will be no rain, and the ground will not yield its fruit, and you will perish quickly from the good land which the Lord has given you. Deuteronomy 11, verses 16, 17. From the time of Assyrian conquest of northern Israel, the Babylonian conquest of Judah, and the Roman occupation that would lead to the diaspora, the people of Israel continued the cycle of serving the Lord and then falling into sin. Losing sight of their divine mission of being priests to a fallen world caused separation from their beloved homeland. Yet this status quo would not last forever. As Adonai lives, who brought the people of Israel out of the land to the north and out of all the countries where he drove them, for I will bring them back to their own land, which I gave to their ancestors. Jeremiah 16:15. For nearly 2,000 years, the land of Israel sat desolate, mismanaged, and abused, waiting for the Jewish people to again inhabit it, desperate to again bear fruit.
You know, we come tonight, something we do every night to honor Israel, and that is we give opportunities to sow financially into the nation of Israel. I would love to say tonight that if you reach in your neighbor's pocket, you can give the gift you've always wanted to give. But I just want to lay out some opportunities, because these are opportunities. I do want to also lay out a challenge. You don't see people at funerals with a U-Haul being pulled by a hearse, do you? Because we can't take it with us. And so many of us are here tonight, and we have different levels of which we could give. But I just want to share with you this opportunity and this collection that we're going to take in just a moment, what this money is going to go to from this night. Remember, we had 40 years of impact, 40 years of people saying, what in the world is this night to honor Israel? And we can proudly say it's when Christians and Jews come together and we give money and we support one another to do things in the state of Israel that strengthens the state of Israel and encourages soldiers and encourages cities. This really matters. This matters more than probably what some of us realize. But one of the opportunities we have tonight is to continue to give to REL. We have a great relationship with them. We are going to continue to give to them, but we're giving to a new fund of the development from within the community and the development for children to help them and those with development challenges. This is the money that we're going to collect tonight. Some of that's going to go to help strengthen and support them. Also, the money that we're going to be collecting in just a moment is going to be helping with the Negev project through Jewish Colorado to help develop, help create infrastructure, help with water, and help all types of stuff through Jewish Colorado. And we're very honored to be able to be a part of that. And we're incredibly, incredibly excited. Another thing is we're going to help from what we give tonight. It's going to help establish what's called KUFI on campus. It's Christians United for Israel on campus to give a voice for the importance of standing with Israel on universities and college campuses. How many know that's kind of a big deal in the world we live in today? It really is. It also is going to help us continue to encourage soldiers throughout the IDF. I'm telling you, there is nothing like seeing a soldier come up to you at the end of a program in the middle of a dusty hillside overlooking Gaza, with tears running down their face, and them saying, why? Why would you come here? And I can proudly say, because there's a bunch of Christians and Jews who love you, and we just want you to know that. It's powerful, and that's what tonight allows you to do. It allows us to, not all of us can go. Not all of us can go to REL. Not all of us can go and help establish the Negev project. Not all of us can go and encourage IDF soldiers. But we can go. Where our dollar goes, we're going. And that's just the reality. But also something we're incredibly excited about is we're stepping into a new project that this night is going to do. It's a partnership with J&F. That, as you know, along the Gaza-Israeli border, there are rockets that are constantly coming over. And as you can imagine, with children, it's shocking to them. They live in fear. They're riddled with fear. They're overcome with fear. And what it's created in them is post-traumatic stress syndrome. As we talked to some of them. Actually, it's just called traumatic stress syndrome because they don't know if it's ever going to stop. But what we have made a decision, that we have made a commitment to give $100,000 from this night to build a therapy room for children on the Gaza-Israeli border to help with their PTSD through an animal sanctuary. There are licensed therapists who are going to be there, and so they get to go in and play with animals, and the therapists get to help them overcome their fears and to live at peace. How many know those children deserve to live at peace? They do. And so you have an opportunity tonight to give. But before we move into that opportunity, I want you to watch a video, actually, that's from the mayor of Sderot about this room that we're going to be building from tonight. So over the next 4 years, we made a commitment. We're going to give $100,000 from tonight, and we're going to help build this room. But before we watch the video, you can make the checks out to Faith Bible Chapel. In just a moment, we're going to collect those. Everything that we give at this moment is going to be going to these projects. You can give online at faith.church/give awareness, or then go to Israel Awareness. And also you can give in front of you as envelopes. You can fill that out. You can fill out your credit card information on there. We will keep it completely, absolutely secure, and we will collect that in just a moment. But before we take that collection tonight, I want us to hear from the mayor of Sderot about this room that you and I are building together.
Hi, my name is Alon Davidi. I'm the mayor of Sderot. You know, the city that it's very close to the border of Gaza. And because that, we suffer from the rocket and suffer from a lot of bad things more than 10 years. You know, especially our children. Our children suffer from post-trauma problem. It's very difficult situation to the parents and especially for our children. Thank you very much, Pastor Jason King, and to your community about your generosity and your donation. With your help and with your friendship, we can continue to live here and not just live, we can develop. I sit now in the room of the Animals Therapy Center. The children come to this room every week and they work with a professional therapist, and he works with them and with the animals to handle with their fears. This mission is not just our mission. It's a mission of all of the free world against the terror, against organizations like ISIS, like the Hamas, evil people that don't care not just about us, don't care about their people that live in Gaza. Thank you very much, and God bless.
How exciting. It's a great opportunity. And I want to give a challenge to you as our ushers can make their way forward. I want to give a challenge. I believe everyone in this room can give something. Listen, I'm not ashamed to ask for you to give money to children who need it and to organizations who need it and for places that need development. I'm not ashamed to ask. Just remember this. One day, someone else will have your money. Someone else will live in your house. One day. So why not make a difference while you're still here? Why not celebrate us as a community, something that only we can do together? We can't do it alone. You can't do it alone, but we together can demonstrate something significant. I believe everyone in this room can give something for the sake of Israel, something for the sake of the Jewish people. And if you think, I can't give anything, you can. Give up a Starbucks once a week. You're like, that's too far, Jason. I can't do that. Just think about it for a moment. What could you give? You can't put a price on the peace of a young child finding peace through therapy. You can't put a price on the development of a center in Ariel helping with children learn and read. You can't put a price on helping families who are stepping out by faith to move to the Negev through our friends at Jewish Colorado and our friends at JNF. You can't put a price on that. So I just want to challenge you, lovingly challenge. that as we receive this collection, that you would give something. And out of that something, you would believe that that dollar is going to be stretched and used for amazing things in the land of Israel. As we receive the collection, though, we have a special guest who's going to be singing a song that she wrote many, many years ago. Many of you have heard it. We just felt it was appropriate just to hear it again as we receive the offering. God's heart to the world as he is talking about our friends, the Jewish people, that he will bless those who bless you. And that's our heart tonight, is to bless Israel and the Jewish people. So let's receive the collection tonight as we listen to this song.
Join me, I will bless.
The moment. The Jewish people living in their homeland. God's faithfulness. Even in the midst of Jewish exile and the land's utter desolation, people recognized God's faithfulness. God called to the Jews to return to their homeland beginning to ring out in the late 1800s. A young Jewish journalist from Vienna, covering the trial of a Jewish officer in the French army, witnessed blatant and dangerous anti-Semitism. He knew that if a refugee for world Jewry was not established, the anti-Semitic undertones of Europe would boil over. He began to assemble the leaders of the various Jewish communities in Europe, and in 1897 the first Zionist Congress was held in Basel, Switzerland, to discuss the prospect of a homeland for the Jewish people. Theodor Herzl's vision was laid out in his book, The Jewish State. We shall live at last as free men on our own soil, and in our own homes peacefully die. The world will be liberated by our freedom, enriched by our wealth, magnified by our greatness, and whatever we attempt there for our own benefit will redound mightily and beneficially to the good of all mankind. In 1897, Herzl writes in his journal concerning a Jewish homeland, If not in 5 years, and certainly in 50, everyone will know it. In November of 1947, 50 years after Herzl's words were recorded, the United Nations voted 33-13 for the establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine, Israel. After the horrors of the Holocaust and the continued anti-Semitism in Europe and Russia, the survivors were desperate for a homeland more than ever before. May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared an independent Jewish state and with other Jewish leaders named it Israel, with the capital in Jerusalem. I will be the God of all the families of Israel, and they shall be my people. Again, I will build you, and you will be rebuilt. Behold, I am bringing them from the north country, and I will gather them from the remote parts of the earth. He who scattered Israel will gather him and keep him as a shepherd keeps his flock. Jeremiah 31, verses 1, 4, 8, and 10. Yet, there is more. God's faithfulness not only drew the Jewish people from the four corners of the earth back to the land of Israel, but God spoke to the land itself. In conjunction with the return of the people, God called forth vegetation and produce from the barrenness. But you, O mountains of Israel, you will put forth your branches and bear your fruit for my people Israel, for they will soon come. For behold, I am for you, and will turn to you, and you will be cultivated and sown. I will multiply men on you, all the house of Israel, all of it, and the cities will be inhabited, and the waste places will be rebuilt. Ezekiel 36, 8 through 10. For the last 70 years and more, the land of Israel has been producing incredible amounts of food. The blessing of the land itself has been multiplied by the ingenuity of the Jewish people, and they have made huge advancements, including drip irrigation, grain cocoons, biological pest control, higher producing dairy farms, desert fish farming, water desalination, medical advancements, and so much more. These amazing achievements are not only benefiting Israel, as they have chosen to share their technological blessings with many other countries throughout the world. As we celebrate 70 years of the modern state of Israel, we also celebrate God's eternal faithfulness to Jew and Christian alike. Romans chapter 11 in the New Testament tells us that God has not abandoned Israel, and that we as Christians are grafted into the olive tree of Israel. The rebirth of a people in their ancient homeland after 2,000 years of exile, the rebirth of their ancient language into modern relevance, and the rebirth of the covenant land into miraculous prosperity. All of these events shout to the nations of the world God's faithfulness to His Word, His people, and His land. We as Christians tonight stand with you, our Jewish brothers and sisters. We come into agreement with the words of the prophet Isaiah. For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent, and for Jerusalem's sake, I will not keep quiet, until her righteousness goes forth like brightness, and her salvation like a torch that is burning. The nations will see your righteousness, and all kings your glory, and you will be called by a new name, which the mouth of the Lord will designate. Isaiah 62, verses 1 and 2.
Good evening. My name is Haley Held, and it is my honor to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. He is the former Israel Defense Forces spokesman for the foreign media. He was the commander of more than 50 officers and soldiers that communicate to the world about the IDF across traditional and social media. Join me in giving Lieutenant Colonel Lerner a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I don't know really where I should start. The funny accent? Doesn't sound very Israeli, does it? The funny name, Peter, it's not a very Jewish name. I was born in the UK, and we made Aliyah when I was 12 years old. My parents liked the name Peter. I've only met 2 other Jewish Peters in my lifetime. It is such a great honor to be here with you. When we made Aliyah to Israel, we went to an absorption center. And that absorption center in Mevaseret, just outside of Jerusalem, is a part of the Jewish Agencies program. And they, like this evening, are dependent on the support of people that love Israel. So it is people like yourselves, like Jewish Colorado, that make people like me be better Israelis. And I'm thankful for everything you do for the state of Israel, and I'm thankful for being here. Pastor Jason, thank you so much for this wonderful evening. Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. A night to honor Israel. Wow, who would have thought? 40 years, who would have thought? Thank you for the wonderful opportunity to come here to the Faith Bible Chapel, to share with you some of my experiences, understandings, observation of the past and current affairs, and the future of the security of the State of Israel. This year we are celebrating 70 years of independence. 70 years of rebuilding our Jewish homeland. 70 years of making the desert blossom. 70 years of innovation, 70 years of fulfilling our moral responsibility to the 6 million Jews that had nowhere to run or nobody to stand up for them. 70 years of defending the state of Israel. I can tell you it's never been easy. We Jews, we thrive on problems. If we didn't have problems, we'd invent them or die of boredom. But I come here this evening to bear witness for the decency of the Israel Defense Forces. For a quarter of a century, I had the privilege and honor to be the bridge between the IDF, Israel, and the world. It was my job to communicate good news. It was my job to inform about the bad news. Indeed, we did it in 7 languages. We did it online, in print, and on camera. Nobody ever called me for good news. As one senior bureau chief in Jerusalem once said to me when I offered him a good story about the IDF, he said, "Peter, if it bleeds, it leads. Everything else is rubbish." He didn't use the word rubbish. He was much more obscene than that. I can tell you, though, that I ask myself every morning throughout my service only one question. Am I worthy of the young men and women that safeguard our freedoms? For the freedoms we enjoy after 70 years of independence cannot be taken for granted even today. They are not a result of the willingness of our neighbors to welcome us into the region. You see, freedom doesn't descend like rain or snow from the skies. Freedom is won by defeating our enemies. Freedom is won by developing opportunities for peace that will ensure that liberty. And indeed, that liberty is supported by our greatest ally, the United States of America. You can give yourself a warm welcome. It's you. And that, my friends, that is why I am here this evening, to say thank you for your support. Thank you for the projects you do and the support like we saw in Ariel. Thank you for making our lives a bit more easier. Thank you for enabling the Israel Defense Forces to focus on defending the state of Israel while you help support society. Today, everywhere we look in the region, we see instability, we see unpredictability, and we see question marks. The instability is on our immediate frontiers, agitated by a regional power the unpredictability on our borders that are a constant challenge, the question marks raised every time people talk about peace with the Palestinians. All of this happens as Israel is constantly singled out by the world press. On an average day, when nothing is going on, Israel is host to one of the world's largest foreign press corps. When nothing is going on, there are about 700 foreign reporters in Israel. They come only third after Washington, D.C., and Brussels with the European Union. This observation doesn't reflect a mere international interest into Israel, not even an international curiosity about Israel, or even a preoccupation about the state of Israel. This goes to show that there is an obsession with Israel. The journalists today, they come to Israel, they are on this Twitter-driven news cycle, constantly in an all news, all the time deadline pushed on them. Who has time for fact-checking? Who has time for research? The online editors, they oversimplify the headlines, they dumb it down for easy consumption. The editors generally want human interest stories, not complicated facts and intricate stories. And this is why, friends, this is why they get it so wrong so frequently. In all of my years working with the world media, I can say, however, that I found reason with the people I came to talk to. I always had an open ear, and I don't know if it was because of the way I was speaking to them or the subjects, but whenever I highlighted something was wrong, they always corrected it. They acknowledged that they made mistakes. And if you take one thing from my words this evening, when you see reporters doing a bad job, call them out. Write a letter. Tell them they're doing a disservice to you, the readers, you, the viewers, you, the consumers of news. I'll tell you a little secret. Journalists hate being wrong. They hate it even more when you point it out that they are wrong. So you have an obligation, and the public arena is an important one for our little country. You can and you must help. In a reality where terrorism is a daily threat, Israel has the constant dilemma of how do you deal with terrorists? You deal with them and you're vilified in the world of public opinion. Disproportionate use of force. How many civilians? If you don't deal with them, innocents die. Israel chooses to deal with them. Once, classic warfare was fundamentally about a contest of wills fought to impose so much stress on the enemy that he loses the will to fight. The war of terror, the asymmetrical warfare, has the same intent. But the enemy can be anybody. He can be anywhere. He doesn't wear a uniform. He doesn't carry a flag. His targets are random. His weapon is fear. And he has no legal constraints. For he seeks to shatter our nerves. He seeks to break our national morale by challenging the political and defense establishments to protect our people. The terrorist's primary audience are the people watching. Its impact is far greater when it's covered by the news. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have. A symbiotic relationship between news, media, social media, and terrorists. You see, they depend on one another. They depend on one another for the drama. They depend on one another for visuals, for images. And they depend on one another for rating. All of our enemies are defined by the way they conduct themselves. They all conduct themselves as terrorist armies. Now, I'm going to highlight and talk about some of the threats and challenges we face today. And as I outline them, sometimes I get a bit depressed because there are so many, they are vast. But I need to say this before I say anything else about the threats and enemies that are facing us. Israel is today stronger than ever before in history. We are stronger because of our allies. We are stronger because of our friends. We are stronger because of our industries. And in Israel today, they noted 23 years since the assassination of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. And he was a great leader, a great soldier, and a great statesman. And one of the things he said about our defense is our defense isn't only built on the tanks, on the aircraft, or on the gunships. Our defense depends on the human being, on the person, on the citizen of the state of Israel. So while the threats are never ending because of all of our strengths, none of them are an immediate threat to our existence. But I need to speak about the threats because they are real. The threats of today, the threats of tomorrow. Iran is the generator of everything bad in the region. The Iranian regime is positioning itself to lead the Middle East. This is an incontrovertible contradiction to Israel's core existence and core interests. For the Ayatollahs themselves, they keep saying that Israel, our Israel, has no right to exist. One of the Iranian generals went so far last week as to advise Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he should practice swimming, because soon he will have to flee into the sea. This is the Iran we are up against. The three components of the Iranian belligerent activities are in their circles of influence: the global influence, the regional influence, and the immediate influence on Israel, on our immediate borders. They are funding everybody. They are giving millions and billions of dollars to everybody who operates against Israel. The nuclear program that has been deferred by the Iran deal, deferred but not thrown out, we exposed earlier this year an atomic archive to show that their intentions are to keep the nuclear program on the shelf. A nuclear Iran is something Israel cannot permit. And President Trump's decision to withdraw from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran deal, is a brave step. Not without challenges, but brave nevertheless. For if there is one thing we've learned from the Holocaust, it is that when somebody says they seek to destroy us, we believe them. And we will work extensively with our allies, or alone, at any cost, in order to foil Iranian ill intentions. Israel's main issue with the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, as it's called, was that it just wasn't comprehensive enough. If it would have been more comprehensive, it could have prevented Iran's expansion in the region as we see it today. It could have curtailed its proxy wars. The regional influence, and this is the second point, is one of creation of utter instability. By propping up the Assad regime in Syria, by building a terrorist army in Lebanon, Hezbollah, by funding the Houthis in Yemen, by being the biggest propagator of global terrorism, Iran thrives on instability in the region and challenges the other regional powers like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt. This reality brings new opportunities to Israel and the region. For Even in the last few days, we've heard about meetings between the Israeli Defense Forces Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Eisenkot, meeting with the Saudi Arabia counterpart under the American flag. We hear that Jordan is perhaps the next target for Iran, for their war of influence. And so we have a strengthened relationship between Israel and Jordan. And of course, our relationship with Egypt, who is combating ISIS in its own backyard, shows that there are many opportunities coming out of Iran's regional attempts. But I want to touch on the most immediate circle of influence, on our immediate periphery. In February of this year, in an early morning on February, the alarms in northern Israel sounded. People ran to shelters. Explosions were heard. The aerial surveillance unit of the Air Force identified an incoming object. That object was an Iranian drone. The drone, laden with explosives, penetrated Israel's airspace over the Golan Heights. Its target was unclear. And even in the aftermath, we only found that it was full of explosives. Israel's airspace is so tiny, it could take an attack jet 7 minutes to cross the entire width of the state of Israel. 7 minutes. We have no time for second guessing. So, in order to foil the attack, the drone was intercepted by an Apache attack helicopter. And in the aftermath of the event, the Israel Air Force conducted widespread counter-strikes against Iranian intelligence positions, Iranian logistic depots, and a drone base. It was the first open confrontation between Israel and Iran. I'm afraid it won't be the last. And also, for the first time in 34 years, we lost one of our F-16 jets due to surface-to-air missiles, Syrian surface-to-air missiles. Thankfully, the pilots ejected safely. What can we learn from this story? It shows Iran's intentions to turn Syria into a forward staging ground on our northeastern border. It shows Iran has the confidence to deploy deadly force. But it also shows that Israel cannot sit idly by and wait for them to build a substantial force. And indeed, in the last 18 months, Israel has conducted some 200 strikes with approximately 800 munitions against Iranian and Hezbollah targets in Syria, in what the military calls the war between wars. The war between wars is an elaborate, mostly covert intelligence-based operation that's goal is to foil Iran's intention to establish itself in Syria and stop the supply of advanced weapons to our most dangerous enemy, Hezbollah. Hezbollah, translated, means the party of God. They carry the banner of holy jihad. Israel is their main enemy. Hezbollah has grown to be a terrorist army on our northern border with a force of about 25,000 people. It has a massive stockpile of rockets and missiles. Approximately 150,000 rockets and missiles, 150,000 in the hands of a terrorist organization. 150,000 is more than most European countries have. They could launch approximately 2,000 missiles and rockets per day in the next war if they chose to do so. In 2006, they launched 180 rockets a day. They've converted some 300 Shiite villages in Lebanon into fortified positions with rocket rooms and living rooms in the same houses. The civilians of Lebanon today are human shields for Hezbollah's operational plan. Hezbollah has gained battle experience in the Syrian civil war, fighting on behalf of Iran and Assad. They've created a plan of action where the next war they will utilize special forces that are tasked in breaching Israel's border and attacking our communities and our bases. Effectively, they are holding all of Lebanon hostage. And so with these capabilities, the question, obviously, is when will a war happen? And I get asked that all the time. I first say, I hope never. But in the army, we also say hope is not a method. And I think there's one word that describes the reality today between Israel and Hezbollah, and it's deterrence. There is a mutual understanding that war benefits nobody. Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, has rarely been seen outside of his bunker in Beirut. Israel is not famous for being patient under fire. So if war does happen, everybody knows that there is a lot at stake. Hezbollah is the IDF's main point of reference for exercises, for force building, for defensive measures. The military has made artificial cliffs out of mountains to prevent infiltration across the border. The IDF has developed a civilian evacuation plan for 22 communities that are adjacent to the border in case of war. But our offensive plans, that I won't be going into too much detail, our offensive plans, which are intelligence-based, extremely thorough, mean that a war between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon will be devastating for everybody, but mostly for our enemy, Hezbollah. And now I'll go from our most dangerous enemy to the most probable enemy. And in the Palestinian arena, we have two areas which are split and divided. The Gaza Strip run by Hamas, a terrorist organization, and Judea and Samaria, where the West Bank, that is run by Fatah, under President Mahmoud Abbas. Over the last 7 months, we've been edging towards war with Hamas in Gaza. Hamas, at the end of March, began a campaign of riots, incendiary devices, explosives, exchanges of fire, and rocket attacks against Israel. Their stated goal, end the siege of Gaza. But the real reason is that after running the Gaza Strip for 12 years, with their hostile attitude and activities towards Israel, they have brought the 2 million people that live under their rule to a dire humanitarian reality. With intermittent electricity supply, with a quality of water that is in constant decline, with unemployment at 53%, and with President Abbas in Ramallah cutting off funds, Hamas does what it does best: ignores the civilians' problems and invests in the tools of terror. Iran is giving Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza some $70 million per year. They are building terror tunnels, attack tunnels, cross-border tunnels to attack Israeli communities. They are rebuilding rocket capabilities, mortar capabilities. They've developed naval forces. They have special forces which operate underground, subterranean. Each attack tunnel that they've built costs approximately $3 million. In the past year alone, the IDF has destroyed at least 15 tunnels. $45 million. Some of those tunnels were cross-border, were penetrating into Israeli territory. And when Hamas fails, they direct their internal frustrations to Israel's doorstep. And so, as the last rocket fired from Gaza on Wednesday, one towards Tel Aviv, and the second towards Beersheba, where Abraham set up his tent, a single mother in less than a minute, at 3:40 in the morning, grabbed her 3 kids and ran to the shelter. The rocket was a direct hit on her house. They came out safe. The house was destroyed. Think about it. What would you do in a minute at 3 a.m. in the morning? So I say, unfortunately, it looks like we are closer today to conflict with Hamas in Gaza than we have been since 2014. The second part of the Palestinian arena, Judea and Samaria, we have a completely different reality. Yes, there are terrorist activities taking place there, but there are three components of Israeli defense in Judea and Samaria. First of all, operational access. The IDF can go everywhere, anytime, preferably with a small footprint and limited friction with the Palestinian population. The second is intelligence, the ability to know what the enemy is planning, whether it's Hamas trying to conduct a suicide bombing or a lone wolf who belongs to a virtual pack and plans just to take a knife and conduct stabbing. And the third component is our security fence, which makes it hard for the enemy to penetrate into Israel. So those three components, they are extremely important, but there is a fourth component that we don't usually talk about, and that is coordination between the Israeli defense establishment and the Palestinian security apparatus. The Palestinian forces coordinate with Israel and combat Hamas. Surprise. They don't do it out of the love for Israel, no. They do it out of the fear from Hamas, because they remember how 12 years ago they were violently hurled off of skyscrapers in Gaza. So they don't want that to happen in Judea and Samaria. They don't want it in Ramallah, they don't want it in Hebron, they don't want it in Jenin. So they fight Hamas. And people ask me, Peter, is the security coordination with the Palestinians the foundation for peace, perhaps, with the Palestinians? And my answer is always the same. I hope so, but not yet. And I say not yet because the security coordination today is fundamentally based on the standing orders that Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president, has given his forces. There were reports last night in Israel that he has yet again threatened to cut off the security coordination with Israel. And he does so frequently. So is it a stable coordination? I don't think so. Any deal to be made between Israel and the Palestinians needs leadership. And that leadership is currently lacking. Another thing to keep in mind is Mahmoud Abbas is 82 years old. His health is failing. He's been hospitalized several times this year alone. And he has no clear successor in sight to continue the good policies he has towards Israel, the security coordination. You can be sure that there will be a power struggle within his own camp when he leaves the stage. And Hamas too are following closely what's going on, because they will try and seize the opportunity to take control of Judea and Samaria too. So after talking about leadership in the Palestinian arena, we also need to go back to fundamentals of defense and strategy. You see, geography and topography also determine that security is paramount. For Judea and Samaria is a mountainous area. It is elevated. Anybody that controls Judea and Samaria has visual control over 70% of Israel's population. Over 80% of our industry, from Haifa in the north to Ashdod and Ashkelon in the south. Power stations, ports, seaports, and of course our own only or main international airport, the Ben Gurion Airport. They're all in the reach of the overshadowing hills of Judea and Samaria. And from those mountains you can hit every city, every town, every kibbutz. So any deal of the century needs to take and address these challenges. And I would say with the region in such an upheaval, Israel today is not in the position to gamble with its security. For me, the essence of a future of a secure Jewish state of Israel means we need 3 steps. We need, first of all, disengagement in order to create diffusion of violence, to limit the friction, and finally build trust. And unfortunately, those are missing from the discourse today. So, the IDF will continue to be charged with the defense of the State of Israel. It will conduct itself, and I assure you, it will conduct itself based on the Jewish moral compass that guides us in warfare. We will continue to show compassion where our enemies show cruelty, even when it jeopardizes our forces. We will do everything possible to avert war, but we will fight it vigorously if needs be to defend our only state. We don't intend incorporating compulsory swimming classes in our high schools. We will utilize the technology, incorporate knowledge, and contribute to society to make Israel the startup nation it truly is. Because when you give young people huge responsibilities with little resources and demand results, I tell you, they deliver every single time. We will continue to send search and rescue missions where national disaster strikes across the globe and ask for nothing in return, because it is our moral obligation. And ladies and gentlemen, before I close, I want to share with you that this year, for the first time in 70 years of tourism to the State of Israel, we are expected to cross the 4 million marker. So after hearing everything that I've just said about the security, about the enemies, about the 4 million people have come to Israel, by the end of the year, are coming to Israel. Despite all of the challenges I've described, Israel is safe. Israel is safe because of support of friends. Israel is safe because of our allies. Israel is safe because of the IDF. Israel is a business as usual, safe kind of place. If you haven't planned your Christmas holidays, or you haven't decided to go on one of the missions from here, or if you haven't planned next year's summer holidays, you should come to Israel. I know we can't be defeated. I've served with the young men and women. I've seen their love for our country. They've inspired me with their selflessness, devotion, and understanding that we have no other Jewish state. So I say to you, L'shana haba'a b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. God bless you all. Thank you. Shalom and good evening.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Can we give one more hand to Lieutenant Colonel Lerner? Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, my friends, you can remain standing this evening. This concludes our program of our 40th night to honor Israel, but there's something special that we want for you, and what we've done is in the atrium as you walk out, there are refreshments for everyone. It's important to us that we take this as an opportunity for us to be together as Christians and Jews. And so for our kosher friends, we have a kosher table for you. And for the rest of you, don't touch the kosher table, okay? Don't leave it for them. But listen, it has been a delight to be with you tonight. I think what we have done tonight is honored God, and we will continue to improve. We will continue to stand with Israel. We will continue to stand with the Jewish people. And we will continue to grow as communities here in Denver and around the world as Christians and Jews. Can I get an amen for that one? All right, all right. Well, listen, God bless you. Have an amazing night. And I just want to take a moment. I just want to thank our staff, our team, our videographers who put all those videos together. Thank you so much. It's been a blessing to us. So, from this Christian to you Jewish friends, we love you. Thank you again for entrusting yourselves to us tonight. May we continue to grow and love one another. God bless you guys. Have a great night. Let's enjoy time together. God bless you.
שוב נדם, והשני מופיע, ונעשה נעלם, אז אין מבט פנימה, שזה קיים. אז רוצה הגיונות עם המראים שוב מכאן. נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, בפרהו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו. שיש לו להגיד, וזה מפחד שמאישם במק נותן חזור, וזה יתוח על הסוד, אז מתנים אותו שנים, וזה לכזה עניינים לא להסכים. הנה שוב מגיע, הנה שוב נדם, והשני מופיע, נעשה נעלם, אז אין מבט פנימה, זה קיים. אנחנו להכיר עם המראים שוב מכאן. נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, בפרהו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, בפרהו. והלב והשני יש שם חוזר בפלטותו, הוא בטוח ששלו מקשקה, וכל הזמן יבוא יקר ישטף נוצר על אותו מקום, זה מלכות הרוח שלו ושתקרבה. אז הנה שוב מגיע, ושוב נתן, והשני מופיע, זה נעלם, אז אין מבט פנימה, זה קיים. אנחנו צעקות עם המראים שוב מכאן. נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, בפרהו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, בפרהו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, בפרהו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, בפרהו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, בפרהו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו, נהיה לזה בובו.